Well, here we go again in video, I don't know, whatever. So, a little bit about me. I used to work for the homeless industrial complex. And as you can tell by my use of the term homeless industrial complex, I have certain opinions about that. One of those opinions being that I will never work for a secular social service ever again. As hard-headed and godless as Christians can be, they're still better than that. So let me tell you a little bit about it. First, I absolutely love homeless people, especially the rough campers. The drug addicts, the thievy ones, the ones with bad past, the ones with all the problems and mental illness. That's my jam right there. Those are God's people as far as I'm concerned. They are my personal Israelites. So, as you can tell, I'm a little biased in their favor. So, let's talk about them a little bit. Here are some statistics about homeless people. Some of these might shock you. First, did you know that 1 in 450 American citizens are homeless? Does that surprise you a little bit? That's quite a big number, isn't it? 20% of them are over the age of 55. 27% are under the age of 25, and that number is a 30% increase year by year. The average age of death? 50. A homeless person is 3.5 times more likely to die than a housed person, yet their total population still increases by roughly 20% per year. That's pretty amazing, isn't it, with such a high mortality rate? It's almost like there are certain policies in place that are generating homeless people amongst the American public. 40% of homeless people have a substance abuse disorder. 30% have severe mental illness such as schizophrenia, bipolar, or severe depression, which isn't at all like the TikTok mental illness, which is just narcissism and histrionic personality disorder and attention-seeking behavior. Here's an interesting one. The number of homeless veterans has declined from roughly 73,000 to roughly 23,000, in part due to targeted efforts to reduce the veteran homeless population, and in part due to the overall decline in veterans in all populations, which decreased from 22 million to 16 million over the same time period. These efforts show that reducing the homeless population is possible, though extending this beyond veterans has yet to happen effectively. Why do you think that is? Could it be because the VA isn't the one overseeing them, and there are different groups overseeing it? I wouldn't ask you that question if the answer wasn't yes. So let's talk about an executive order that was passed recently by the President on July 24th, 2025. President Donald J. Trump, who owns a mansion and a yacht, signed an executive order titled Ending Crime and Disorder on America's Streets. The order aims to address homelessness by encouraging states and local governments to strengthen enforcement against homeless encampments and public drug use, and to promote treatment for mental health and substance use disorders, including through expanded use of civil commitment. It directs federal agencies to prioritize funding for programs that require participation in treatment before providing housing assistance, shifting away from programs that house individuals first without preconditions. The order emphasizes restoring public safety and reducing disorder associated with homelessness through these measures. Basically, there's this group called Housing First that has a philosophy of putting people in housing in order to have the housing be a hub for the other social services, such as mental health care, substance abuse treatment, and recovery, things of that nature, right? And so the Housing First people are really angry that the treatment has to happen before the housing in this executive order. The thing is, there is a reason that they are so angry. And it isn't because what they say. They'll say it's because, well, you're punishing the homeless, and it's unfair, and it's cruel and unusual punishment, and all of these kinds of things. But in actuality, there's another aspect to this, and so I would like to talk about fraud in the homeless services. You see, some things have come out in the last year or so about some of these groups. So let's talk about that. The homeless social services are an unregulated industry, and they take in billions of dollars for the stated purpose of addressing the homeless crisis. This has kind of resulted in massive amounts of fraud, which is just now beginning to be uncovered. For instance, LAHSA, Los Angeles Homeless Services Authority, a government agency responsible for distributing funds and managing programs aimed at providing shelter and services for homeless residents in Los Angeles County, received billions of dollars from taxpayers through measures like Measure H, $3.5 billion, and Measure HHH, $1.2 billion, intended to fight homelessness by building housing and providing services. Independent audits found over $2.3 billion in homeless service spending that could not be accurately tracked down or accounted for. This included 2,300 shelter sites, which just kind of didn't exist when they said they did. LAist, an investigative news outlet, published demand letters from former LASA executives alleging misconduct and fraud starting around May 2024, which triggered a county investigation. Allegations included financial mismanagement, wasteful spending by LASA officials, approving invoices without verifying services were provided, hiring unqualified friends into highly paid positions, attempts to destroy public records, misuse of consultant fees, and a culture of corruption. Some funds may have been outright stolen or diverted through fraud schemes. A lack of internal reporting by LASA to county fraud investigators was revealed. Claims were known internally but not reported until LAist exposed them. LASA CEO Felicia Adams Kellum resigned in response to the scandal, and funding was shifted away from LASA by LA County supervisors. A court-ordered audit in LA highlighted major flaws in homeless services, pointing to disorganized and weak financial controls, making the system vulnerable to waste and potential fraud. Federal investigators formed the Homelessness Fraud and Corruption Task Force in early 2025 to investigate misuse of homelessness funds in Southern California, including LASA. The newly formed federal task force has stated it will hold individuals accountable and pursue arrests if prosecutable crimes are found. It's pretty terrible, isn't it? Good thing that only happened there, except it did not only happen there. Minnesota's Department of Human Services faced allegations of widespread fraud in its Housing Stabilization Service program. A federal fraud investigation uncovered a massive scheme to defraud funds meant for housing supports for people with disabilities and the elderly, with costs ballooning from $2.5 million to over $100 million in a few years. Several business locations were implicated. In San Francisco, a homeless services nonprofit, Providence Foundation, agreed to pay $1 million in settlement after an investigation found nepotism and fraud, including fraudulent invoices and wrongful denial of wages. The Joint Office of Homeless Services in Portland, Oregon, was investigated following a fraud hotline tip about wasted funds and neglect of a veteran apartment complex, Sandy Studios. The investigation found the property had deteriorated into unsafe and unsanitary conditions, while the office continued to pay rent, indicating poor oversight and waste. I'll tell you right now, with my experience working for the HIC, this is not an anomaly. This is kind of how they all are. It's a feature, not a bug, and boy have I seen some interesting ways that city councils and social services can create this circular firing squad of finger pointing, where at the end of the day it was no one's fault and millions of dollars got spent and not a dime of it made it to the homeless population. It's kind of rage-inducing, tell you the truth, and I just wanted to throw all that out there. I guess, unfortunately, this could be a part one of a multi-part series, because I got a lot of other things I could say about it. This is kind of just a crash course in what we're dealing with. So on that note, let's finish off by reading Isaiah 61. The Spirit of the Lord God is upon me, because the Lord has anointed me to preach good tidings to the poor. He has sent me to heal the brokenhearted, to proclaim liberty to the captives, and the opening of the prison to those who are bound, to proclaim the acceptable year of the Lord, and the day of vengeance of our God, to comfort all who mourn, to console those who mourn in Zion, to give them beauty for ashes, the oil of joy for mourning, the garment of praise for the spirit of heaviness, that they may be called trees of righteousness, the planting of the Lord, that he may be glorified. And they shall rebuild the old ruins. They shall raise up the former desolations, and they shall repair the ruined cities, the desolations of many generations. Strangers shall stand and feed your flocks, and the sons of the foreigner shall be your plowmen and your vine dressers. But you shall be named the priests of the Lord. They shall call you the servants of our God. You shall eat the riches of the Gentiles, and in their glory you shall boast. Instead of your shame you shall have double honor, and instead of confusion they shall rejoice in their portion. Therefore in their land they shall possess double, everlasting joy shall be theirs. For I, the Lord, love justice. I hate robbery for burnt offering. I will direct their work in truth, and will make them an everlasting covenant. Their descendants shall be known among the Gentiles, and their offspring among the people. All who see them shall acknowledge them, that they are the posterity whom the Lord has blessed. I will greatly rejoice in the Lord. My soul shall be joyful in my God, for he has clothed me with the garments of salvation. He has covered me with the robe of righteousness, as a bridegroom decks himself with ornaments, and as a bride adorns herself with her jewels. For as the earth brings forth its bud, as the garden causes the things that are sown in it to spring forth, So the Lord God will cause righteousness and praise to spring forth before all the nations. So God bless Christendom. God bless the United States. God bless the United Kingdom. God bless Israel. And God bless you.